This is the final section of our lecture on Chapter 24. This is Part 5. And we were discussing how long it takes for speciation to occur. And the two major theories are that there is a gradual approach to it, or there can be a more punctuated timing of the speciation process. So we have broad patterns in speciation that we can study, and the way that's currently being evaluated is by using the fossil record, by using morphological data, such as the structure of different organisms, how their phenotypes appear, and also now we can look at molecular data. The fossil record includes examples of species that appear suddenly and then can persist essentially unchanged for a long time and then suddenly disappear in the fossil record. So this alone is perplexing to historians and evolution scientists. And so the term punctuated equilibrium was used by Eldridge and Gould to describe the periods of apparent stasis that is punctuated by a sudden change. And this punctuated equilibrium model is a big contrast to the model of gradual change, which people like Darwin proposed occurs in species over a long period of time. So again, the idea of gradualism is this slow divergence of a population into two distinct species. And then the punctuated equilibrium is when we can have like spurts and then stops and spurts and stops, sudden bursts of change, interspersed with long periods of little or no change. And then the species undergoes rapid change when they first bud from the parent population. So in summary, evolution is not goal-oriented. It's not occurring with a perfection in mind. It's a trend, and it doesn't mean that it's going to get to that perfect place. You could say in this gold box here that evolution is not necessarily the survival of the very fittest, but rather the survival of just good enough. Surviving species are not going to represent the peak of perfection because there's compromise and random chance involved. And again, this comes down to the major source of the different variations that evolution and natural selection can work on being just random mutations. To summarize this lecture on Chapter 24, I'm going to end with this macroevolution animation that will just go over the concept of macroevolution.
Microevolution by itself does not explain the diversity of life on Earth today. Let's investigate the role that macroevolution plays in this process. Multiplication of species creates biological diversity with the evolution of many different species from one common ancestor. This can be seen with Darwin's finches in the Galapagos Islands. Sometimes referred to as branching evolution or adaptive radiation, this occurs when multiple habitats and niches open up with relatively little competition. Evolutionary novelty results from the gradual refinement of existing structures for new functions. Here we see how ancestral birds may have used wing-like forelimbs for courtship. They could also have taken advantage of these enlarged forelimbs to allow for extended hops and gliding ability. Once flight itself became an advantage, natural selection would have remodeled feathers and wings to better fit their additional function. Explosive diversification often occurs following the evolution of an important adaptation. For instance, the evolution of the flower from early seed plants that were similar to modern conifers, allowed plants to reproduce more efficiently and thus exploit many previously unavailable habitats and niches. After a mass extinction, previously filled niches and habitats are opened up. When the dinosaurs became extinct, mammals had the opportunity to evolve into those niches and produce incredible diversification.
So we began this lecture with this animation, and we finish with it again as we finish up with our idea of how do species originate.